your Facebook.
There it goes.
So I just sent you a message that says, hey.
All right, got it now. Now I should be able to send it back to you. All right, let me see here. Only scrapes only.
That was tripping me out that I could find your picture, but not your Facebook. That makes no sense.
All right, I think I
Yeah,
sent it.
that totally looks like a female fisher. Let me look at it full screen. Oh yeah, that's totally a female fisher. I don't even think it's a martin. Like it's because fishers and martins are basically the same thing, just a different species, and one's bigger and one's smaller, right? But that's clearly a fisher, so it's not even mistakable for a martin. So yeah, female. I'm just guessing, but obviously I have no real size reference. But it doesn't look as stocky as a male. So I even without size reference, I feel confident it's a female fisher.
It's the only one way to find out.
Yeah, catch it.
Gotta check under the skirt.
Catch it.
You gotta ask him what he identifies as. What are your pronouns?
Oh, welcome back, guys. We have Joseph Carter, the Mink Man himself. How are we, Joseph?
Doing good.
We appreciate you jumping on with us. Have you ever done a podcast like this before?
I've lost track of how many podcasts I've done. They're all different. I've done some that are on like dog channels. I've done them on. Yeah, I've lost track of all the ones I've done, but yeah, this
But so many times, right?
Yeah. But this particular, yeah, I've had to have done some on a hunting channel, but yeah, I can't remember.
Well,
I've done
we
it
just
on a falconry hunting channel for sure. But.
we found you, and I was like, this guy's just got to be the coolest thing ever. So why don't we dive right into it? Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
Okay, so my name is Joseph Carter, better known as the Mink Man, and I live in Utah, and I do what I call minkenry. That is a word that I made up by mixing falconry with the word mink, but I didn't put much thought into it. So if you notice the end part, it has nothing to do with the mink part. It should be just minkery or minkry or something. But anyway, I didn't put much thought into it when I first coined the phrase, and it is what it is. So yeah, I train mink to do hunting, fishing, and pest control. And most of my videos revolve around pest control. And even when I'm hunting, I'm often hunting something that's causing problems and being a pest. So even in my hunting endeavors, it kind of doubles as pest control 90+% of the time.
So how did you get into it, and where did it kind of all start for you?
So I got into it because I was told that it was impossible. So I grew up just loving animals. I've been an animal nut since the first words I could speak. It was something animal oriented, whether it was catching worms or graduating up to catching turtles and garter snakes. I just kind of, the older I got, the more interesting and more difficult things I was trying to catch and play with, you know. Mm-hmm. I became fascinated with falconry at around age 12. There was a falconry kind of presentation given at my Boy Scout, or I guess it would have been Cub Scouts if I was that young. But anyway, whatever scouting I was in at the time, I don't recall. I also don't recall the age. I might have been younger than 12. But anyway, whatever scouting I was in, because I was in both Cubs and regular Boy Scouts, they had a presentation, and I thought, wow, that's cool. I want to do that. My dad said, heck no. And I said, hey, you can get your license at 14. And so I was bound and determined to become a falconer. My dad wouldn't let me. But when I moved out at age 15, I went and lived with my grandfather, who's a horse trainer. And we were in Idaho at the time. I moved from Illinois to Idaho. And my grandpa pretty much just said, hey, man, you can have whatever you want. I don't care. And we're in a rural situation. So, I mean, I could have had a grizzly bear and it wouldn't have been difficult. I mean, there's no neighbors, So anyway, so I got into falconry and did that for a number of years. And then my senior year in high school, I moved with my grandfather. I was still living with him. We moved near a mink farm. And I asked everyone, well, what's a mink? And I knew really basically that they were a member of the weasel family, but that was about it. I didn't even know they were semi-aquatic. I just knew they were the weasel family. They're just impossible to do anything with. They're just good for their fur, and that's it. And I, being a teenage boy and having experience training horses and wild horses even, and wild birds of prey and hunting with them and training cattle dogs. And when I was like 10, I had a pet squirrel that I trained, and it would come out of the trees when I'd call it. I was like, man, I think I could do it. I'm no novice in my mind. I really was a novice, but in my mind at the time, I'm no novice. I could figure this out. So I had the goal of just catching and taming a mink. I didn't really have any goal beyond that. Just wanted to see if I could do it, basically, do the impossible. So I found an escaped ranch mink that was running around one day, caught it, tamed it. It was like, see, I told you, And then a mink farmer saw me playing with my little mink on a leash, and he's like, well, that's a blue mink. They're the tamest of the mink. Of course you tamed a blue mink. You could never do that with a black mink. I'm like, oh, really? So, of course, I had to go now acquire a black mink, which my neighbor happily furnished. That it was in their garage getting into trouble. And they said, can you come catch this mink? So I went and caught it. And anyway, long story short, after taming multiple mink, I kind of got bored with the whole, well, I proved multiple times you can tame them. What can we do with them that's useful? Growing up with a working animal background with, we trained cattle horses, not like pleasure, someone's backyard pet horses. We were training working ranch horses and cutting horses, a competition, cattle cutting competition. So I always had work, purpose in my head, like something got to have a purpose. We don't just do it for kicks and giggles. So I was like, well, what could I do with a mink? What work, what benefit, what, even if it's recreational, what purposeful, goal-oriented task, even if it's recreation, what goal-oriented task could I do with this? And I'm like, well, they're super mean, so I'll bet I could get it to catch something. What do they catch? So I started researching what they caught in the wild, what they ate. And I was like, man, it'd be really cool to like catch some fish with one, because that's what they eat in the wild. Part of their diet is fish. So I started trying to fish with one, and I was taking it to a little city park, chasing some carp, and it caught, instead of the fish I was hoping it would catch, it caught a rat. There was a city rat living along the stream, and it chased it out, caught the rat, and I was like, wow, that was pretty fun. So then I started doing that on purpose. And so I'd start chasing muskrats and brown rats and ground squirrels and various different things. And in that process, people learned that, hey, this goofy guy catches rats for fun. I have some rats he can have fun with. Please come over. And people started paying me to come and remove their pests. And just little by little, it turned from a hobby to a business. And the whole time, from the very well, I shouldn't say the whole time, because I started in 2003, which, if I'm not mistaken, is before YouTube existed. If not, it was before it was significant. So 2003, I didn't film any of that. I took like a couple pictures at best. 2008, with the mink I was working with at that time, I started to document it with videos. So I'd film what I was doing. This is how I'm doing it, because it was supposedly never been done. As far as I've been able to just find in my research, it's never been done before. I'm sure somebody's done it, right? Some goofy dude in Canada or backwoods of Arkansas caught a mink and trained it and hunted with it. I guarantee you somebody has. But as far as my research can tell, nobody at least recorded what they did. So I started recording what I was doing, because as far as I knew, I was the first guy doing it, or like I said, at least the first guy to record what he was doing. So I started filming what I was doing, and started in that 2008, and that snowballed into another form of income when, 4 years later, I found out, hey, you can make money on YouTube. Interesting. I had no idea that was possible. I've been doing this for 4 years for free. Maybe I should monetize it. And my buddy, or my cousin's buddy, helped me to monetize my channel. And then I started, make a little money from YouTube, a little bit of money from pest control. And then eventually it snowballed to where I had to quit my job and do it full time.
So what was some of the trials and tribulations that you had to go through as you were trying to train this mink from the get-go?
Oh man, endless. So I had to figure out how to handle them without making them mad. And that just kind of, I guess, was instinctual on my part. I dealt with enough animals that I just was like, well, they don't like it if you grab them, so I'm not going to grab them. I'm going to just like gently like let them sit on my hand, and when they jump off, I'll catch it again. Kind of like if you ever seen a little kid with a hamster and it goes like from hand to hand to hand, same kind of thing, but with a big old mink. So I just figured out how to handle them without making them mad, how to entice them to come back to me. That again came natural due to falconry. So, but I did try after my success. I tried a few things to see. Hey, I was successful with my first try. Let's try some other method, and I found methods that didn't work.
Right.
uh, so yeah, I just basically found that if you avoid conflict and pressure on them, most of them will stop trying to bite you and just accept the food you're feeding them.
Is it
And
a reward thing though with them? Like you just reward them for doing good things and get them to do whatever you want them to do?
yeah, essentially like falconry, you teach them, hey, you come to me and I'll give you a piece of food. If you don't come to me, you're going to go back and you'll be hungry for a little bit. And they learn pretty quick, hey, I don't like being hungry and I do like eating food. And this guy hasn't hurt me yet, so he must not be too bad.
So how do you recall them after they do something good? Because that, I mean, and virtually it's a wild animal, and when they're out there, like they could just go down a creek or whatever they want.
And they just learn when I blow a whistle, when I make a little whistle, or call their name or whatever it is. For a while there, I do different calls for different mink, but I've kind of settled into a rut now, and I just do this whistle, and that means come to me and I'm gonna feed you. And it's an unmistakable whistle, like someone's not gonna be accidentally. I used to use like a sports whistle, like a ref whistle, but then I was like, man, if we get playing near some football game, this could go wrong. So I just made up my own little unique whistle, and they know that means food, so they come running.
That's crazy. So you literally just turn them loose in wherever this area that this nuisance animal is, and they just kind of instinctually hunt the way that they would typically hunt in the wild.
Yep, that's right. And you get them enough experience that they know how to hunt. They know where to look. They learn how to use their nose and track and things like that. And then all of it's instinctual. They just need a little practice to get good at it, right? And then I teach them a few things, like, so I'll teach them a way to guide them. If I'm hunting muskrats, muskrats are difficult because they dive under the water. It's not like a brown rat or a squirrel that just runs off and leaves a nice little convenient trail for the mink to follow. They dive under the water and they're sent, and visually and to the sense, all the other senses, they just disappear. But we, as humans, we basically have a bird's eye view. So it'd be kind of like if you were out hunting deer and you had like a pet raven that would like pretend we pursue deer, not just wait for them to walk by and shoot them. Let's pretend you had to like run the deer down, right? If you had a pet raven sitting above you in the trees, being like, "Dude, he's over here! Dude, he's over here! Dude, he's over here!" It would just make it so much easier, right? And that's essentially what the mink's like. He can't smell under the water. He can smell a little bit. There's some tracking they can do on the surface, but when the muskrat submerges, all that tracking ability just totally disappears. And then their point of view, if you're thinking like a man in a forest, that's how a mink sees, right? One little rock completely obscures his view. Even if there's nothing to obscure their view, they don't have the best eyesight either. So long vision or distance is really hard for them. Or if it's holding very still, it just looks like a rock to them. We've got eagle eyes and a bird's eye view. So I could be like, hey, muskrat's over here. And my little way of communicating with him is I throw a pebble. And if it's in the grass, it'll hit the grass and I'll hear the grass rustle. Or if it's in the water, he'll hear the splash and I'll hear the splash. But my current mink, he's got pretty good vision for a mink. So he'll actually watch where the rock flies. So if I throw a rock, he'll watch it and he'll start running that direction before it even lands. And he watches where it landed. And then he gets the audio cue of it splashing or hitting grass or whatever to push him closer to the animal. And so between me, so I do help with muskrats, but with like brown rats, I mean, that's it's not a common situation where I'm guiding him because I don't know where the rat is. He does. He's got the sense of smell and he's down in the holes and such. But with muskrats, it's very, very difficult for a mink to catch a muskrat. Reason is the ones who aren't difficult got killed yesterday, right? Muskrat and mink live right in the same habitat. And that mink's going to cross paths with that muskrat 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. And if that muskrat isn't good at getting out of the way, he's dead. He doesn't pass on his genes. Brown rats they're not naturally with a mink. They're from Asia. They don't even have mink over there. So they don't have all these instincts and escape patterns and methods to avoid predation from a mink because it's not their natural predator. They're an invasive species from northern Asia. But mink and muskrats, they're neighbors, and the mink's always trying to eat them. So they're genetically programmed to just be expert at avoiding mink predation. So with me helping them there and tossing the pebbles, we even the playing field, and more often than not, the mink's able to catch the muskrat. Whereas naturally, they can do it, but it takes all day long, and even more than all day long because they don't eat just muskrats, you know. Right. So it takes them all day to catch enough to eat. They're maybe eating a muskrat a week, right? Whereas with me, we could catch a couple in a day with my help.
So how did you find out that they would go after muskrats? Because like you went there to get them on fish, and then you found out rats, and then it was just kind of a trickling effect of all these things that it would go after?
Yeah, well, I knew that they hunted muskrats naturally. They're the #1 predator of muskrats. And I'd already read that. But it did happen, even though I knew that, I had that book knowledge. It did happen because there just happened to be a muskrat at the park we were chasing fish at. So the same park, there were brown rats and muskrats both, and they chased both. He didn't catch the muskrat. He caught the brown rat, but I caught the muskrat with a net. And I was like, oh, cool, that was fun. And then eventually I learned how to let them catch it. Because for me, I mean, a lot of this is even when I'm doing pest control, especially for muskrats, I should say, specifically for muskrats, not because it doesn't apply to brown rats at all. We don't care about sporting with brown rats. It's kill everyone we can. But with muskrats, I see it as a game animal, not just a pest. Even if I am being paid to remove it, I see it as a game animal. So I try to preserve them. I try to not overhunt them. I don't bother them during the breeding season. I try not to remove everyone unless I'm specifically being paid to do that. I try not to remove everyone in an area. And even then, don't tell my boss. I mean, I try not to just wipe them out because they're a native game species and I want to preserve them. I don't want to just wipe them out. But they're also way more challenging than all those other pest animals, the brown rats and the squirrels and stuff. So it makes it more interesting. So I could just like set up a colony trap and a net and just catch all the muskrats and be done really quick. But I'm like, nah, man, let's enjoy this. And I'll let the mink catch it. And yeah, I will catch them because it is part of my job. Sometimes we'll net some, sometimes we'll get one in a collie trap. But unless their numbers are just crazy, I'll just be like, okay, well, one by one, come back every day and catch one with the mink. Even though I'm being paid to remove these, I'm going to do it in the least efficient way possible and just enjoy it as a sport rather than like brown ratting where it's like, dude, I want to kill everything here and never come back. Let's get all the dogs and cover all the exits and put up a fence and, you know, do everything we can to kill every individual here. Whereas with muskrats, I'm more conservation minded rather than eradication minded.
How do you decipher what your target species is? Like, is there a way to let the mink know like what you're after in that area, or he's just gonna get after it?
He's going to get after it. And certain mink have certain personalities. So I've had mink that are real just putzes. They don't like a fight. They want the lowest common denominator. They'd rather eat 100 snails than put forth the effort to eat one rat. And they're just like lazy, cowardly little mink. And those individuals, I don't like to work with, right? They're wasting my time. They're chasing minnows instead of chasing muskrats, you know? So those individuals are no good for me. I move them on. I don't waste my time with them. Once I realize, hey, this mink has no heart, it's not going to be is not going to be my mink anymore. So part of that is me figuring out, okay, which are the good minks, which are the bad mink. And then once I found the good mink, I started selectively breeding them so that I got less bad mink. And I'm at the point now where I very consistently get male mink that they want to find muskrats over fish. And if there are fish there and you're trying to get them to get a fish and they smell a muskrat, they'll abandon the fish or the frog or the other silly animal that you're trying to get, and they'll go find the muskrat or the brown rat or whatever it is. My mink right now, I discovered that this local little fishing pond has rats because we were out there to try and catch some crayfish. In the summer, the crayfish come up and the water's real clear and it's just fun. You go out and you spotlight them with a little spotlight and you see the crayfish and you toss a pebble and the mink dives in and grabs the crayfish and brings it back. And it's real fun. It's awesome for like baby mink that you're trying to like build up their confidence or just having fun with my little girls, you know? Well, the problem was there were brown rats there, and he smelled the rat, and he's like, screw these stupid crayfish, and he'd go track a rat down and kill it. And so for him, and that's what I want. That's a good problem to have. I mean, I'd rather him ignore the crayfish and the fish and go look for the muskrat or the crayfish or the brown rat or whatever. But yeah, so a lot of it's personality, but now I've selectively bred it to where it's pretty normal. I kind of expect that. And I'm a little disappointed when I end up with a mink that's not. Well, I'm always disappointed, but I'm more disappointed when it's one of my own. It's like, geez, you came from my stock and you prefer to chase crayfish. You're lame, you know. Not breeding you.
And typically, it's the male mink that you're looking to use, not the females. Are they just more aggressive, or are they bigger because they can take down those animals, or?
Yeah, so I would love to have a tiny male because the downside with the male is they can't fit down brown rat holes very well. Mm-hmm. Muskrat holes are fine. You can have a ginormous ranch mink that's just a behemoth, overweight tub of lard, and he can run through a muskrat hole. Muskrats are big, wide animals, and their holes are bigger than they seem to need to be. It's like, why do you dig it that big, guys? So yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen a mink that couldn't fit down a muskrat hole. But brown rats, on the other extreme, you could have a slim little female, and there's still going to be situations and holes and den systems that they can't quite maneuver through. So kind of the smaller, the better for brown rats. I wouldn't say necessarily the bigger, the better for muskrats, but you can get away with big. And big is helpful. But once you get too big, they start slowing down and get cumbersome, and they're not as quick and nimble. So you really want like a medium big for muskrats because they can muscle that big old fat muskrat around, but they're quick enough that they can catch it better. So like a medium big is the ideal for muskrats. And then with males, when you're back to your original question, males are overwhelmingly more confident and more aggressive than females, and they're more powerful. So on average, male mink are 1.74 times bigger than a female. So almost double, not quite double. 1.74 times bigger than a female. But even if you were to account for the weight difference, say you got a great big female and a little tiny male, that male is still going to be, even though they weigh the exact same amount, the male is going to be stronger, have a harder bite, and he's just going to have a lot more oomph than a female. But like I said, the downside is they can't fit down little holes. So you end up having to work with females. The ideal would be if you could get just this super gritty, tough little male. But I mean, then you've got so many different traits in one package. It's kind of a unicorn chasing that.
Mm. Now, when have you ever had them where like they kind of like turn on you and they've been aggressive towards you? Because like that's like the whole out them is they're super little gritty meal. Little weasel type animals.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. Most of my mink will go after me if they get the chance. I just teach them, hey, it's not in your best interest. I mean, I'll boot you in the face if you start trying to climb up me, you know. And dude, I give you food and I take you to cool places. Why are you being mean to me? Like, you don't have any reason to be mean to me. But yeah, I have mink that I have to wear like tall boots with, or they'll just get your calves, get your shins. I had one mink, he learned where the boot ended, and he jumped up and bit me in the butt cheek. I still have a tear in that pants He jumped right up. He didn't get just above. I had another one. He learned where the boot ended, and he just got me just above the boot. But this one, he's going for broke. He grabbed me on the butt, was hanging, and luckily it didn't totally pierce the skin. It just kind of scratched the skin. But then he ripped my pants. But most mink that do that, they just haven't been out and hunting enough. Once they realize, hey, this dude is no fun to attack. Muskrats are a lot of fun. Brown rats are a lot of fun. Squirrels are a lot of fun. And this dude even gives me meat. They kind of tone down their aggression. But if you just put your hand down, yeah, they'd come and tag you.
Even the ones you breed, or is that more like back when?
Oh, they're more so because I don't select for tameness. I select for confidence and aggression and grit. Yeah. So like, yeah, I get some of the worst ones I've ever seen come out of my bloodlines because they're just, I'm going to eat everyone. I mean, I had a mink, the one who ripped my pants, he was attacking my sheep. Like he thinks he can take on the world. But even those totally super fiery, just devils of a mink, they typically mellow down if you just get out and hunt them. They realize, hey, it's useless going after that guy. Let's focus on muskrats. I have lots of success when I attack muskrats. Whenever I attack that guy, he knocks me down. It's kind of uncomfortable. Maybe I won't do that, you know. But yeah, I've had a mink. So I have a little cattle prod that I use for my sheep because the sheep, I have dairy sheep, and they'll get really, really pushy sometimes, especially the rams. You just, hey, don't do that, zap. Oh, okay, and then they stop doing whatever thing they're doing. So I'll have a little cattle prod. I've had mink where literally I'm opening the door, but I got a cattle prod because it's really dangerous. If they start jumping at you and you start kicking at them, you could accidentally knock out a tooth, hurt the mink. I had one who come and grabbed on me. I think it was actually my sleeve, and I swung it just trying to get it off, and he flew and he hit his head on something, and he just kind of did a little. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just killed him. Oh my gosh, I just killed him, and then he shook his head and he was fine. But like, they're a little fragile animal. You could accidentally kill or seriously harm one. So a little cattle prod's just a beautiful thing because there's zero chance of injury. Like, I mean, almost zero. I guess maybe you could like poke their eye, but I mean, almost zero chance of injury. And it's really clear in their mind, oh, I'm not going to do that again. But we're talking extreme cases. Most mink, you just stick your foot up and say, hey, quit doing that, dude. And let's go catch a muskrat. You do that enough times and then, I'll leave that guy alone. He's no fun. I like muskrats. I like brown rats. I like rabbits, whatever you're hunting.
Do you only hunt one mink at a time?
Yes. So I have experimented with doing multiples, and it's so hard keeping track of one mink. I mean, they don't like work as a team. So one goes this way and one goes that way, and it's like, well, where are they? You kind of need like a person for each mink. You can do it, but it's a headache. That's one problem. But the number two, they're always fighting with each other. You can basically, like their first year, you could totally hunt them as a group and they'd be fine. Little squabbles here and there. But then once they kind of hit sexual maturity, it gets really difficult. I've had a few mink that got along for prolonged periods beyond that. But by 2 or 3, they were trying to kill each other and I had to separate them. So even the weird exceptions, I eventually had to separate. You could probably, if you really wanted to do it, get a male and female to get along. You just have to separate them during the breeding season so the male doesn't breed her to death, you know. But you could for sure, without too much difficulty, have a male and female work together. But then again, you need another person because it's so hard to keep track of one mink. Like today, I was out hunting Spark, my best mink I've ever had. He had his, I don't know if it was his best hunt, but this most difficult hunt he's ever had today. But I put him down a hole, and those muskrat holes, sometimes they go up, well, often they'll go up from the water's edge up into the thick reeds or the grass. And so he goes in the hole and he just disappears. We're sitting there waiting. Finally, I see this little black dot running like way down the canal. Like, think if I had 2 mink out and they both did the same thing but opposite directions. I mean, anytime you turn a mink loose, you're begging to lose it. Doing 2 at the same time is really begging to lose it. So.
Do you ever have one of your minks run into? What happens if they run into like a wild mink?
They fight. They try and kill each other and just separate them. I avoid that. Obviously, I don't. If I think there's a wild mink around, hunt that area. But yeah, I mean, first thing they do is they just go to scrapping it out.
Are they're that territorial?
Oh yeah.
They get that
So according to Paul Arrington, and I don't know how he could really prove this, but this is a claim he made, and he's the authority on mink and muskrats. He says that more wild mink are killed by other mink than all other natural predators combined. That's his belief.
Wow.
So whether that's true or not, it still gives you an idea of just how aggressive they are. Because I mean, they're not a very big animal. You've got golden eagles, bald eagles, great horned owls, coyotes, bobcats. I mean, there's a whole list of things that could kill them. Other big mustelids, right? Fishers, all kinds of things could kill them. And according to Paul, in his opinion, more mink are killed by other mink than all of those others combined.
Now you were saying that you had taken them out and you were trying to catch them with fish. Do you do that a lot and try and catch fish also? And what species of fish do they like to fish for?
So fish are very difficult. Like they need to be in a specific kind of scenario. They're not like an otter where they're a fishing specialist and they could just go swim it down and grab it. Typically, the water needs to be kind of shallow or the fish needs to be hiding. That's really where they get a good advantage. If the fish is like hiding up in a muskrat burrow or in like some rock crevices or in a brush pile, the mink has a real good chance, or in some reeds, the mink has a real good chance of getting in there and grabbing it before the fish can get out of there, or even catching them in a dead end, right? And the fish can't go anywhere and he just grabs it. That's where the mink really excels at fishing. When you've got like open bodies of water, I mean, fat chance. Like it's very difficult because they're not very fast swimmer. Their breath, I mean, they have a limited amount of oxygen before they need to come up. They're not like an otter who can just really take off in the water and hold their breath for a really long time, things like that. So it is difficult for them, but they're proficient fishers. But you need to be in a specific scenario where they have the upper hand, because even a slow fish can just outswim them across open water.
So it's not really the most prevalent thing for them to be going after then.
No, well, about half their diet is fish, but like I said, a lot of it is they're catching them in dead end hiding spots where the fish is hiding and they're trying to get away from other predators, and the mink just goes in and pulls them out. They eat a lot of crayfish too, which obviously they're not very fast or difficult, but that's only in the summer. The other thing is that they'll have an advantage is they're warm blooded, so sometimes the fish are like in the winter really kind of sluggish, or they're short on oxygen, so they're all congregated around a hole in the ice trying to get air, and that mink will just so there's times when a mink could literally pile fish up. There's a warm spring or something that they're attracted to, the mink could pile them up, but then there's lots of times where it's just almost impossible for them to catch a healthy fish. So really it's dependent on the scenario and the type of fish and things like that.
Now, you also hunt with dogs too, right?
Yep.
Now, are you hunting the dogs and the mink together? Are they working together when you do this, or is it two separate things?
Yeah. So I can do it with dogs and mink with muskrats, and I've had fun doing that, but it kind of takes some of the sporting aspect out of it. It's a little bit too easy in my eyes. And so I shouldn't say I totally discontinued, but I don't do it as much. But with the brown rats, there's no sporting involved. It's just like, we're going to kill as many as we can. We're going to get these guys under control. They're an invasive pest. I'm paid to be here. And so, yes, the mink and dogs work together that whole time. We catch them any and every way we can when it's brown rats. And yeah, we'll have mink and dogs work together and we'll catch a couple hundred. Our record's 512 rats in a day. Now, that particular day, we didn't use any mink, so it was just dogs. But our record's 512 in a day. And sometimes it's a lot of mink work. Sometimes it's a lot of dog work. Sometimes it's a very coordinated effort with the mink going down the hole and the dog catching them as they come out. It really just depends on the scenario. Sometimes people give me a hard time. Why didn't you pull the mink out? I'm like, well, he's not a gimmick. I don't get the mink out because it's fun. I get the mink out because I need the mink. And I didn't need the mink. I could lift that pallet and the rats run out. There's no need to send in the mink. And then there's other times where it's like, either I can't get to the rats, or there's so many, if I lift the pallet, they're going to scatter and the dogs aren't going to catch them all. So I'll send the mink in because the mink's killing a few. and they come out slower, one or two or three at a time, and the dogs can catch them slow enough that having the mink is the advantage. Even though I technically could have just lifted it, it's better off to send the mink because they come out slower, and the mink's killing several that the dogs wouldn't have to catch. So it really just depends. It's a tactical thing when I decide to pull out a mink or not pull out a mink, because they aren't obedient like a dog. I can't just like some places like, dude, I never want the mink to come out here. There's too many complications or dangers of some sort. I'm putting the mink in the truck and he's staying in the truck. Even if I need him, I'm not getting him because of the hazards in that environment. It's too easy to lose it or too easy to hurt the mink or something. And so we'll just use dogs. Rabbits are tricky enough in most places that it's fun to use both the dog and the mink, because the rabbit can outrun the mink, goes flying out the hole, the dog chases it, gets in another hole, and then you put the mink down that hole. So rabbits are really fun to work mink and dog together.
What's the relationship between the mink and the dog? Like, they get along fine? There's no squabbles between them two, or?
Nah, they hate each other. They hate each other's guts. The mink bites the dog every chance he gets. Dog avoids the mink. A lot of times my dogs will shut down when we pull the mink out. They're like, oh, I don't want to work. I might get bit by that mink. Like, it's not a good relationship at all. I'm just the guy in the between saying, hey, you guys get along, because the dog could just kill the mink if he wanted to, but she knows she's not supposed to kill the mink, so she doesn't. And the mink, I mean, there's very little controlling of the mink, so the dog learns to avoid the mink pretty much.
It's like brother and sister. The two of them are fighting all the way through it.
Yeah, the dad makes them stay together.
Joseph's in the middle of the cattle frog, like, get back. Like Herb Dean.
I wish you could just fit a little e-collar on a mink. That would be the most amazing.
I was thinking that earlier.
Just push the button. Hey, leave that dog alone. That would be amazing. Hey, I'd be able to hunt in the middle of chicken.
You should work on that.
The problem is when they're squeezing through those rat holes, you can't even give a 1/4 inch. Like,
right.
Even just a collar with nothing on it is getting in the way of the mink squeezing. So it's just not. Even just like I said, just a bare ribbon around their neck is a snag hazard and preventing them from fitting in as tight of a hole. So it's just
it would be cool just to be able to track him, just to be able to look at a GPS and know where he's at all times.
Well, I use a falconry GPS when I'm hunting muskrats because the holes are big enough and the risk of losing is higher usually. So I do have a falconry GPS and telemetry combined. So it's both, because the GPS loses signal really fast. The mink could be sitting in a bush and lose a signal. So I like to use both technologies to be like, okay, I've lost GPS. Where's the mink? Beep, 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 beep. Oh, he's over here. And really, I'm kind of leaning towards I didn't even need the GPS aspect. I almost kind of regret getting it. But my idea on the GPS was, hey, if he goes down a drainage pipe, pops up in someone's, like, in the middle of a neighborhood in the drain, I'd get a signal real quick. Beep, beep. Oh, he's over here. And I could run over. That was the idea behind the GPS, not going straight, because telemetry loses signal too. But I'm kind of thinking that's probably not even going to work. But anyway, I've got the system already. I'll use it till I lose it, and when I lose it, I'll probably just stick with telemetry, to be honest.
Because the GPS will let you know as soon as he comes above surface again, right?
It would, and that was the idea behind getting it, because he could get down some drain pipe and pop up 1/2 mile away, 2 miles away, and I'd be like, oh. And at that point, the stupid little beep beeps, you're like, oh, well, it's that direction.
Right.
I have no idea where that direction, how far that direction, but the GPS could say he's here that direction. I could jump in the car and drive over into some neighborhood, and he's running in their backyard or whatever.
Give him the old whistle.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you've done some training with the minks and the dogs. Like, you try to put the dogs inside the crates with some of the younger kits and stuff. Has that seemed to be effective with the relationship between the two of them?
Not yet. So the problem is the mink always eventually bite the dog, and it could be a different mink. So you raise the dog with a certain mink, and they become buddies. And mink and dogs will actually become really good buddies if you raise them together. But then some other mink that's not raised that way bites the dog. Now the dog doesn't trust any mink. And I think if you really put a lot of effort into it, the dog would learn, hey, that's a mean mink. That's a nice mink. I mean, it's just so much. It's easier just to be referee and say, quit it. You know?
Well, I imagine, feel like you said earlier, you want the grittier mink.
Yeah.
Imagine you want gritty dogs too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you got
Yeah.
two gritty animals trying to, like, that's a tough task.
Well, the nice thing is dogs are the most moldable creature on the planet. I mean, even a knot-headed dog is really easy to train. The dumbest, knot-headedest, most unbiddable dog on the planet is like an easy mink. So, I mean, I can get around, especially because you could put an e-collar on. Heck, I could probably hunt with a coyote. Hey, leave that mink alone. Zap, zap, zap. Okay, but I don't have that luxury with a mink, you know. So I feel confident I can hunt with a coyote or a dingo or a wolf or whatever. The beauty of an e-collar is they can't say no. They can't give you the middle finger and run off through the forest. It's like, dude, you know what's going to happen. Okay. Do you need a reminder? I'll push the button. Okay. You know, any animal can understand that concept really quick. But I mean, you don't have that luxury of fitting one on a mink. That's just not.
What do you think the next animal is that you're going to try and train on your own, Joseph?
Oh man, I mean, there's so many things I'd love to try. I think a badger would be super useful for my ratting because badgers dig for a profession. And there's a lot of times where you can't really stick the mink down a hole because there's so many rats in there that the mink kills one and the body's blocking his way. And there's like 50 rats or even just 2 rats behind that dead rat. And so it just doesn't really work well to use the mink. And so we end up digging them up. And the thing is we don't know. We know the mink goes in and kills a rat, but we don't know what's behind that rat. Like, so the mink might have killed every single rat in there. I've pulled up stuff where there's like 7 dead rats that the mink killed, you know. But then I've also pulled up stuff where there's 1 dead rat. And there's 7 behind it, totally happy as could be. You know, and the way I learned all this was we'd have like a concrete slab and we stick the mink under. He kills stuff. Okay, the mink's done. The mink says he's done. Put the mink away. And then we lift the slab. And we're like, dude, there's so much left. Like the mink misled us to think we were done. So anyway, back what I'm getting back to, in those big rat infestations, having a badger that would just dig up the whole hole for us, in theory, would be super cool and super useful. And it'd be work the same as the mink. They know it actually would be supernatural too, because in nature, I don't know if you guys have heard this, coyotes and badgers will often create relationships. I shouldn't say often, occasionally will create a relationship, and they follow each other around and help each other hunt. Have you guys heard about that? Is that you? Okay. So one of you have, one of you haven't. It's a natural phenomenon that even the Native Americans spoke about, where a badger and a coyote, they're both highly intelligent carnivores. They learned that, hey, they benefit each other. Now, before, I used to believe it was a parasitic relationship. It wasn't mutually beneficial. I was like, what does the coyote provide to the badger? Nothing. He's just stealing his kill when it escapes. This is a parasitic relationship. This is not mutually beneficial. Well, then I started hunting with mink and I realized prey animals act differently when there's a dog standing outside. They know they can outrun that mink or that badger, but that dog is going to snatch them, and they know it. And so they'll stay down in the hole and they'll avoid coming out. And the badger has a better chance at digging them up and grabbing them before they come out, because they're so hesitant to come out because the coyote's standing there. The other thing is, not only does prey act differently when there's a coyote, in my case it's dogs, right? A canine, let's say, standing outside the hole. They also, when they run, they can't just run indefinitely and just like, screw you, badger, I just keep running, because there's a coyote on their butt. They got to get down the next hole or they're snapped up by the coyote. So let's say that ground squirrel does escape the coyote. Bam, where is he? He's down another hole. What does badger have? Another opportunity to dig him up. He doesn't just have to go find a whole new den system with a whole new hole. And not only that, think about it, that squirrel, he's going to the first hiding place he can get to. He's not cherry picking, oh, I'm going to go to this big, amazing, extensive burrow system. He's like, no, I got to get down the first hole I can, which he would have done, right? He would have cherry picked, just like a raccoon being chased by hounds. Boo, boo, Oh, there's some dogs coming half a mile away. Let me cherry pick the best tree in the forest to go hide in. No, he's got coyote breathing down the back of his neck. I got to get down the first hole I can, or the coyote's got me. And now he's sitting in a very vulnerable hole, most likely, right? Statistically, he's probably in the worst place possible. And now that badger is going to come dig him up and eat him. So they both benefit. The badger benefits because he gets a second chance at certain squirrels that he never would have got a second chance at. And he gets a second chance at a squirrel in probably the worst place possible because he couldn't cherry pick this extensive den system. So anyway, coyotes obviously get the benefit of they don't have to dig up the hole. They suck at digging. These little weak paws. They just stand around, wait for the badger to miss something, and bam, they snatch it up. And so they both mutually benefit from each other's presence, and they'll just run around. They even have videos of them like playing together. They get so comfortable that they're like goofing off together, sleeping together. I'm sure it's different from individual to individual. I'm sure there are coyotes that are mean to the badger. They steal their food. That's not a friendship. But there's videos from trail cams that show they've got some kind of friendship thing going. It's not just a relationship of convenience. They kind of like each other. But I guarantee you there's coyotes that are buttholes to the badger, and it's not a friendship at all. It's more parasitic. But even when it's parasitic, even when that coyote is 100% a jerk, that badger still benefits that he's there. So anyway, sorry. So I would love to use that already naturally occurring relationship with a badger, but it's just legally super complicated for me to get one where I live. State of Utah is like no on everything when it comes to mammals. They're like super lenient with reptiles, but mammals, they're like, nope, we don't do that. It's a mammal. Oh, it's a reptile? Here, you could have this super invasive species. We don't care. Like it's very, very, or native species. This super native protected, semi-protected species. Go ahead, have it. You can just do some little survey online and we'll give you the license. A mammal? No! Like there's obsessive, compulsive control freaks on mammals. So it'd be hell. I would need to hire a lawyer and say, dude, talk them into it. I just don't have the time. But I don't have the money either. So,
but
I don't have
they draw the line at the mink. You're allowed to have the mink, but nothing.
Oh, yeah. Mink are considered domestic livestock in most states because of fur farming. So luckily, they're put in the door. They're the most commonly farmed animal. Most states just consider them domestic livestock. And some have particular, like, well, it needs to be in the captivity for X number of generations or whatever. And other states are like, we don't care. A mink's a mink's a mink. They're all captive livestock if you own it, So it just depends on the state. But yeah, Utah, they're one of those. Yeah, we don't even care. Like technically, it has to be ranch. But if you caught a mink, if I caught a mink tomorrow and called DNR and said, hey, I caught this mink, they'd be like, okay. Like they don't care. Like so technically, if you read the law, it's got to be a ranch mink, but they don't really specify what a ranch mink is. It's like a captive owned, privately owned, captive raised. It doesn't even say captive born, captive raised. What does captive raised mean? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it depends on the state, but even the most, well, except for a few weird exceptions, they're all just like, yeah, it's like owning a chicken or a goat. We don't care.
Now, how tame do you ever get, like really tame ones? Or are they all pretty much pretty gritty? Like you were talking earlier, like sometimes you open up the cage and it's like, get back. But like, do you ever have somewhere like you can just like put them on your shoulder and you just chills there? Or are they never that tame?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So some individuals, I had one, he was just cool. He didn't care. He had no interest in biting me. I mean, I'm sure you could have made him mad, but if you were just respectful to him, he was respectful to you. He didn't bite people. He was cool with dogs too. Didn't have a problem with dogs, but he'd kill a cat. He'd kill
I was gonna ask you that.
Squirrel. He'd kill a muskrat. But dogs, for some reason, he was cool with dogs. He was cool with people.
Do you ever worry about when you get like a house call for pest control and you have to worry about non-target, like someone's cat or pet or something?
For sure. Yeah. I always tell people, you have a cat, you need to lock them up. And one time they didn't do that and it didn't go pretty. So yeah, I mean, I just sound like very clearly like
told you to lock your cat up.
And my dogs are fine with livestock outside of cats. Cats are fair game in their eyes, but any livestock, but the mink, I mean, everything's fair game to the mink. So it's just luckily with chickens is chickens they can run faster than a mink, and usually they're smart enough to just run off and go to the other side of the yard. And the mink's so used to smelling chickens but never catching one that they just focus on rats.
Yeah,
So
the time a mink's gonna get a chicken at night on the roost, right?
yeah, or the chicken's just stupid,
Yeah.
or they're in some kind of confined area, like a chicken coop. So I just tell them turn them loose in the yard, let the chickens roam.
Yeah.
And you should be fine. And I've had a couple accidents. The stupid chicken come back and got caught anyway. But it's not that common if you've got smart chickens at all.
I would imagine you work around chickens quite a bit, right? Because those are the people that have the rat problem, or because all the chicken feed and all that stuff. So
yeah, fowl are our number one jobs, whether it's chickens or pheasant farms, or I've never done a quail farm, but I think that's because we just don't have them locally. But bird farms of some sort, whether it's a backyard chicken coop or a full on. I've never done a commercial chicken farm though. That's one thing I've never done, a commercial chicken farm. But I've done backyard chicken farms, chicken coops. I mean, and I've done commercial pheasant farms where there's like 10 acres of flight pens. But I've never done, for some reason, it just hasn't come up. I don't know if they don't have rat problems or if we just haven't crossed paths. I have no idea.
There's something about like we get those. I don't know what you could call a brown rat, but like the Norwegian rat, they're the really big ones.
Yeah.
They almost always pop up when you have chickens. Once you get chickens,
yep,
you're gonna get a Norwegian rat. It's gonna show, and it's like, where did it come from? Like it just shows up.
Yeah, they just wander around, and one day one finds the chicken coop, and they are a magnet to each other. If you have a rat in a cage, you're going to get another rat coming around it. That's just a fact of nature. Best way to get rats in is to have another rat in a cage. The best bait in the world. But yeah, so one rat sets up shop, someone finds it, they have babies. You can be in a pretty remote place. So where we live, it's desert, so rats wandering around. It's not like where are you guys from? I haven't even asked you guys anything.
We're in the north.
You got whitetails behind you, so
Connecticut.
Both of you are Connecticut.
Oh yeah. We're both New England boys. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So you got lots of water, lots of cover. A brown rat could just like go wherever he wants. It's difficult. Mm-hmm. It's hard. In the forests and eking by, but he can survive across an expanse to find a farm, to find a place where food's good. Where we live, it's desert. Dude, you're not surviving. You try and cross that desert, you'll die of thirst, or a predator will get you because there's very little cover. We're full, right? So for us, they've got to kind of come in on a vehicle. And these farms, maybe they get a delivery of hay, or their neighbor gets a delivery of hay and there's a rat in it. Or a feed truck, or maybe they get a delivery of new pheasants from another pheasant farm, and there's some rat, tucked in there. And when they park the vehicle, he gets off, and they get an infestation. So we get these really inbred infestations that are clearly from like one or two individuals, and they'll come out weird colors. Sometimes people have even accused me of releasing pet store rats because we'll have like a white rat, or not. Actually, we've never had a white rat. That's one thing we haven't had. But like a black rat, or a black with white spots, or just some goofy. It's funny. The one thing we've never had is an albino white rat. But other colors that you'll see at the pet store will sometimes crop up, and it really just comes down to bottlenecking. One pregnant rat made it to this farm, gave birth, and then they bred brother to sister to produce, and she happened to have that rare color gene, and because she had that rare color gene, half of her offspring did, and they inbred, which made a whole population where 1 out of every 4 come out some unusual color, and the rest are the normal wild color. So like in our case, they're coming in on a truck. There's no way for them to cross that desert to get to another farm, from farm to farm to farm. They just can't. But if you've got a waterway, like a canal in our deserts, we'll have a water canal that comes through for irrigation. They can travel that canal for a long distance and scrimp by eating dead fish and and mice and stuff until they make it to a farm, and then they make it good. So it just really depends. But in your guys' circumstance, there's no way to just have an island the way we do, because there's creeks everywhere, and they can't thrive in nature. They really can't, because they're not native here. But they can just barely survive just enough to make it to the next farm, where then they population explodes because they've got unlimited chicken food in this case.
We see it all the time, like, especially it was crazy during COVID where everybody got chickens because they were worried about chicken. Like, like where I originally had lived, there I had a taxidermy shop, and like we had dead deer heads everywhere, right? And there's just food that would be for a rat would be, we would think you would have them in this shop. I didn't have them for 4 or 5 years. Then COVID hit, and all the neighbors got chickens. And then I started having a rat infestation inside of my taxidermy shop, and I couldn't put it all together until the chickens started to show up. And I don't know if they were throwing grain and it just brought them all in, and the two of them just living cohesively together. I don't know. It was horrible. And then I had to kill off all the rats and try and trap them. It was just an absolute disaster. But
Well, the key with livestock, whether it's chickens or whatever the animal, assuming their main diet is something a rat can eat, they've got an unlimited source of food and an unlimited source of water. They need both of those. A lot of people love to say, "Oh, well, you got to keep your place clean, or the rats will move in." Now that's irrelevant. You could have a junkyard in your backyard and not have a single rat, or you could have a perfectly mowed lawn and have an infestation. It really comes down to food and water. Now, if you have a junkyard and food, definitely you're going to have more rats than you would otherwise, and it's easier for them to move in, for sure, for sure. But all you got to do is remove the food, and that junkyard will be rat-free within a few months or weeks or days, just depending on how desperate they are, how much they have stored, because they do drag food off into their dens and stuff. So it might take a couple months for them to eat all their reserves, kill each other, cannibalize down to nothing, because they love to eat each other. That's their favorite, is another rat. But my guess is your taxidermy shop probably wasn't consistent enough. You probably didn't have meat year round. I'm just guessing. I don't know your situation. So the rats need year round food supply, and chickens, you can't just stop feeding them because it's not hunting season. You still feed them even when they're not laying, right? You still feed them, you still water them. And so the rats came in because there was a constant supply of food from the chickens, and then yours was a temporary supply, but they came in and took advantage of that and took over before you were able to cut off their supply. But had you just stopped doing taxidermy, like in the off season, they would have just disappeared on their own.
right, yeah, that's probably why.
Do kind of side question, but do you help if there's a way? Do you help these farmers like after you come in and take care of the rats? Is there a way to like they have like rat proof feeders and all that stuff? Like, is there a way to like mitigate how much wasted chicken food there is, or is it like inevitable? There's going to be a supply of food for the rats if you have chickens.
It depends. So a little backyard job, yeah. There's a lot of things you could do to prevent or avoid or reduce, if you're willing to go through the effort, and most people just aren't. With chickens, so I've had chickens. I've had my own backyard chickens, and I didn't have rats. It's not just because I killed them all. I just knew how to manage things. You don't leave food out. Chickens do not need 24/7 availability to food. In fact, in my opinion, it's not good for them. If I get a lot of old laying hens and unwanted roosters from neighbors and friends and people all the time, and they just give them to me, and I use them for mink food, use them for dog food, eat them myself. I have lots of chicken, and most of those birds are so obese you can't even find their organs. You're like, where is your intestines? Oh, it's underneath all these layers of fat. Where's your gizzard? Oh, it's under all this. I can't even see your gizzard. I have to scrape the fat off to see the muscle. It's ridiculously fat. So I don't think it's healthy for them. And it's not getting you any more eggs. You're wasting food anyway. And then you're providing pests food, mice, rats, sparrows, starlings, whatever it is, pigeons coming in and eating their food. So you got to feed them in meals. Now, this, what I'm describing, is not really possible, or at least practical, in a big operation, right? If you've got a pheasant farm that's 10 acres with, I don't even know what their numbers of birds would be, 1,000 birds per acre, whatever they have. I mean, you're not going to be able to do this, right? It's just not reasonable. But with chickens, yeah, put their feet out, go back in and brush your teeth or eat your breakfast or whatever you do in the morning, come back out, take their feet away. And if you're really concerned about it, when you go to bed at night, just before it gets dark, maybe an hour before dark or whatever, put their feet out, go back in and, eat your dinner, whatever it is you're going to do, come back out and take it away. And you have that food available for, between 15 and 30 minutes a day, twice a day. They don't need anything more than that. And that's probably even more than they need, really. And then the rats have a 15-minute window to rush in and eat food. It's not going to happen because you're feeding in the daylight. They don't like to be out there in the daylight. And honestly, if they're that bold that they're coming out during that 15 minutes, great. Sit out there with a pellet gun.
They're not going to make.
You only have 15 minutes to eat, and you're sitting there guarding it with a pellet gun, And shooting almost never works. But if you were to control the feed, like in that type of scenario, it might work. Because the only time they get to eat is when it's covered by a gun,
Yeah. Well, just pulling it at night alone would help, I would imagine, right? Because chickens are going to eat at night because they're on the roost.
It would help, but still, I mean, rats will come out in the day. If it's there all day, they're going to eat just as much as it. I mean, it might help a little bit, but not much.
They don't care. They're hungry. They're hungry, right? Especially if you start to maintain it.
And the key is too that you're pulling it like an hour before dark. You don't want any scraps left. If you leave it too long, they're gonna. It's almost impossible to feed a bird without them dropping pieces all over, right?
Right.
So you want to pull it quick enough that they can clean up and they have time to clean up the couple pieces they dropped. So that helps, but even then, rats technically can live off of bird manure. I don't know if they can live off it, but they'll definitely eat it, and it provides calories for them. So even then, I can't even say for sure that would work, but you're going to drastically reduce the number of rats or the possibility of an infestation by a lot. And if your chickens especially are like, anyway, it just helps. It helps a lot, if not completely solve the problem. But the problem is most people don't want to do that. It's just too hard. I got to get out there and pull the feed and then be around to take it back.
So with that being said, how often do you get called out, get hired for a rat problem? You come and do your thing, and then a couple months later, the same person's calling you to come back again because they didn't do anything to stop it from reoccurring.
That's pretty rare. Usually it's about 6 months to a year. So usually these reoccurring clients that are just happy to have you come back and they don't care, it's about every 6 months to a year. 6 months is pretty frequent. It's usually more like a year. But I have some that, it only took 6 months for them to bounce back and they had me back 6 months later. But I have clients like that once a year, every 6 months. Whatever.
Almost like a preventive maintenance kind of thing, like that yearly 6 month thing.
And it gets really easy because we know all the places they're going to go. We know where we're going to lose them. If we lost one last time, we'll remember it. It gets it to where they're really, the rats are in a lot of trouble when we show up because we know everything they're going to do before they do it. And so, but I mean, really, you get to where you can kind of guess anyway. But those little one-offs that you didn't know there was a pipe over here, you didn't know there was you already know it because they've done it in the past. So
that's cool as hell.
And also the clients know what to expect. So they're like, they'll leave things a certain way because they know, hey, it'll make it really easy when he comes to catch them all. And it's usually nice to have reoccurring clients. And they're grateful because you fix their problem and it doesn't come back for a while. I mean, really, to have me back twice a year is not very much.
Right.
In their eyes anyway. That's debatable, but in their eyes, once. And like I said, twice is really the most. I can't even think of someone I've gone more than twice. Unless I just wasn't able to fix it the first time, but that's rare too.
What kind of farm was it or setup was it where you killed over 500 rats in one day?
So that was a grain farm, and they had some silos that went bad. So the rats had unlimited grain. And then it was an older farm, multi-generational farm. So they had like pioneer era buildings where they just stored things. I don't know, this lawnmower's not working anymore. Let's go park it in that pioneer era shed that great grandpa built. Oh, we got this piece of machinery that's now obsolete, but we don't really want to throw it away, man. This thing cost a lot of money when we first bought it. Let's shove it in this shed. And then just things piled on top of things. And then they're all right next to an unlimited supply of grain. And then the state that it was in was a wet state. So unlimited water, unlimited food, unlimited shelter. And it just created a disaster.
I couldn't even imagine walking to the barn.
Did you know? Yeah. Did you know going into it was going to be like a high number situation? Or
I was scared. I was driving 4 states away for nothing because I had a bunch of friends who wanted to go ratting. I was like, I think this might be a big one, but I really don't know. And I had them take some videos and stuff. And I was like, I don't know. I was scared that I was wasting everybody's time. And we were all driving from out of state. Had people coming from the East Coast, another person coming from the West Coast, me coming from kind of in the, not really the middle, but neither coast. And we all met there in the same place. And I was just like, please have rats. Please. I'm not like a dozen, please at least have 100 rats. And yeah, the best day on that farm was 512. And the total for that trip was, if I remember correctly, 1,400 and it was 80 something or 60 something. One of the two.
Was that 3 days? 3 days?
It was, I think it was total of 5 days.
Jesus Christ.
5 days of work and just under 1,500 rats.
And they just mop up the minks they don't stop, right? They just go to town, they'll go in, snap the thing's neck and keep going, or how does that typically go down?
Well, the mink get burned out pretty fast because they've got to wrestle that rat and kill it and then wrestle the next rat and kill it. The dogs are the ones that can just like machine bah, 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 because it's just a little mouthful to them. It's not a battle. They just crunch it. And sure, they might get nipped on the lip, but whoop-de-doo. Like you said, I work with gritty dogs. I don't have little Labradors and border collies. I got some gritty, tough little dogs, and I got bit, but I'll kill the next one, and I'll kill the next one. I'll kill the next one. They'll go through, 100 rats per dog, and then really their feet give out. Their feet's walking on all kinds of boards and rocks and glass and weird stuff, and their feet will get sore and tired before their face from rat bites, Whereas the mink, he takes a bite. It's not a pretty thing. I mean, it's not like it's gonna, not like you could do anything about it. It's not like a big injury, but they'll have another one and then another one and then another one, and then they're just like, dude, I don't want to do this anymore, Right. But the dogs, it's not a big deal. So the mink in those big crazy infestations, like that specific day of 512 rats, I didn't even have a mink out. It was all dogs.
All dogs.
But then there's situations where it's like, dude, I need a mink. I got it, or I want a mink. Sometimes it's not need, it's a want. I could do it a different way, but it would be harder. Let's pull the mink out. And the mink will kill like 12 in a day, right? But a dog, I've had him kill 50 in a day. I've had him kill 100 in a day. And we don't know exactly how many each dog killed, but we had 5 dogs catch 512 rats. It evened out to somewhere around 100 rats per dog. And a mink like cat killing 12 is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he killed 12. So I mean, it's just, it's so much difficult for the mink.
What are you running curs? What kind of dogs are you running?
So right now I have a game bred pit bull and 2 little terriers. One's a Patterdale and one's a Patterdale Jack Russell cross. So what I like to do with my team, I also have a whippet, but she sucks. She's going to a guy to chase bunnies because she just doesn't like rats. But basically what I like to do is I like to have 2 different type of dogs at a minimum. You want a teeny little gritty, get him in there and kill it dog that's just, as gritty as you can get, real small as you can get, and not scared of squeezing into tight places. So a terrier, typically. I don't like the dachshunds. They're really slow, really awkward, and they're not as gritty. And they're not as strong either. They're just kind of flimsy compared to a terrier. And they're not flimsy compared to some other dogs, but I mean, compared to a terrier, they just don't have the terriers are like a little brick house, man. They're just tough skin, tough teeth, tough everything. So anyway, you get a little terrier is my preference, but it doesn't have to be a terrier, really. Just something small enough to fit in tight places and gritty enough not to care about being bitten. And not just small enough to fit, by the way, they need to want to fit. a lot of dogs are like, oh yeah, he's small enough to fit, but he's not going down there, you know? So the desire and drive to fit and the ability to fit in tight places and to dig and to locate. So they need to be able to use their nose, want to dig a lot, want to squeeze into tight places, and then just not care about being bitten by a rat. That's one type of dog. Then you want kind of the opposite: quick, athletic, preferably smart, and able to snatch those rats as they're running across open ground. Then it's kind of cool to have a dog in between, not as small as the terriers, or able to squeeze in as tight as places as the terriers, but smaller than like the bigger, quicker dog, so they can run under farm equipment and run under certain obstacles, but they're not as slow as the terrier. Because that's the big downside with the terriers. They're just slow. I mean, it's simple math. Their legs are not long. They can't take a long stride. You know, even a big slow dog can outrun a small fast dog, right? Just because every step they take is like a body length of the other dog, you know? So I used to have terriers and lurchers. A lurcher is basically a sighthound crossed with some other working breed. The one I had that was so good for years was a pit bull crossed with a greyhound whippet. So a little bit of pit bull, a little bit of whippet, a little bit of greyhound. And what that did was that gave me a dog that was fast enough to cut, you know, when a rat's bolting across the open, he can fly out there and snatch it before it gets down a hole. And then obviously, you know what the pit bull brings, right? he didn't care about his face, right? Rat bites him and he laughs, you know? So that dog was really, really good. And I ended up getting a little purebred, game bred pit bull for raccoon work. You get raccoons up in pipes and under barns and under porches and things like that. And you send a terrier in, and man, those raccoons, anyone who has a terrier and tells you, oh yeah, my terrier kills coons, unless your terrier is like 35 pounds, you're either killing easy coons or you're a liar. Like, terriers really take a whooping from a coon. And you can get easy coons. Sure, there are coons that any dog could kill. Your farm collie will kill it, right? But a real bad boar coon backed up in a hole is going to mess up the majority of terriers' day or week or month, right? If the terrier's gritty enough. And most aren't. They'll just be like, yap, yap, oh, this isn't fun. And they'll go back out the other way, right? And so I needed something with a little more oomph, but small enough to fit in those tight places. And my bull lurcher, my pit bull sighthound cross, he'd do it, but he was 65 pounds. And there's only so many places a 65-pound dog can fit. My terriers would do it, but then they're laid up for a while because there's only so much a 20-pound dog can dish out. And so I was like, I want something in between. And I got like I said, I did a lot of research, found just the right working bred pit bull in my eyes. And I raised her up from a pup because I didn't want her fighting my other dogs, right? So I got her as a pup and raised her up. You know, we don't fight dogs, we fight coons. We don't fight, you know, horses, we fight rats. You know, got her focused on what I wanted. And man, she ended up being I didn't even get her for ratting. Of course, she was going to rat. All my dogs catch rats. But man, she is just a whiz at ratting. And I think it's mostly her intelligence. She's just so much smarter than most other dogs that she can figure out where the rat's going to be and what the rat's going to do. And then she's got that terrier, I don't care attitude. Like, I'm not scared of getting hurt. Wham. And she's got those jaws that when she grabs a rat, she doesn't have to shake it. She doesn't have to mess with it. It's just dead on impact. Bam. Next rat. Bam. Next rat. Bam. And it's like, did you even touch it? How is it dead? Did you even touch it? And the rats are just twitching. She's got the next one. So and then pit bulls are a lot more athletic than most people realize, because people think of a pit bull, they think of some other breed 99% of the time. They're picturing some mastiff or some ugly bully mutt or some dog at the pound. The vast majority of people don't even know what a pit bull looks like. In fact, when people see my dog, one of the number one question they have is, what's that dog mixed with? I could tell it's got pit bull in there, but what else is it mixed with? It's not big enough or it's not stocky enough. I'm like, this is probably the only real pit bull you've ever seen in your life, is what the answer I always give. You've probably never seen a real pit bull because most people don't have them. They have some other dog that they call a pit bull. It's a boxer crossed with a German shepherd. And they're like, oh, it's a pit bull. And oh, it's a Labrador crossed with a, whatever. Oh, it's a pit bull. Everyone calls everything a pit bull. But anyway, sorry, back to what I was saying. I think a big part of her success isn't just her brain. That's the number one key, but it's also she's way quicker and more athletic than you would expect from a kind of a stocky looking dog. She can move. And now, is she going to like outrun a rabbit in a field? No. But for those quick bursts of speed to snatch a rat, she's good. She's really good. And so I actually don't have that bigger, faster dog that I started out with. I always wanted some lurcher or sight hound that could quickly snatch those rats, because so far it's like, man, the pit bull's fast enough, and with her brain she doesn't have to be as fast because she'll figure out how to cut that rat off and get it anyway. And I've tried with a couple different sight hound type dogs, and just my bad luck, the last several I've acquired sucked. I raise them up from a pup and they're flinchy and scared of the rat and flipping it around and doing. The current dog I have now won't even commit to catching one. She's just like, she literally falls asleep at a ratting. The mink jumped over her. The last ratting we were at, she was asleep in the sun, and the mink jumped over her like she was an inanimate object. That's how into ratting she was. So anyway,
that was the whippet?
That's the whippet, yeah. And there are a lot of whippets that love ratting, just not the one I got. Yeah.
Hopefully that's good foreshadowing. My local high school is playing the whippets tomorrow night, so hopefully they're asleep.
Yeah, so that one's going to a rabbit-ing home, or she's going to go chase rabbits. She likes rabbits. She doesn't like rats.
The other quick question I had for you is, how exactly do the mink kill the rat? Like, is it like they biting them in the neck? Like, what are they doing to kill that rat? Is it
So it depends on the size, right? So if you've got a small female mink killing a really big rat, they're grabbing at the back of the head and they're crushing it, or they're grabbing at the throat and they're crushing it.
Yeah.
If you get a big male mink and a medium-sized rat, it's like a dog. They could bite them anywhere. They could bite them and crush their whole rib cage. It's almost like a little tiny terrier when it's that kind of size difference. When you've got even bigger size difference, you got a muskrat. So muskrat versus mink, they're kind of comparable, unless you got a real big male mink. They're about the same weight. And if you've got a small female mink, they could even double her weight. And in that case, they can't just crush the skull. And they'll grab the back of the skull when there's that big of a size difference, and they just rake their teeth across the skull. And exactly what they're doing, I mean, sometimes you get a little tooth poke in that skull and cause brain damage, but other times you could see that skull was never punctured. And I don't know what they're doing back there, but they're severing some kind of nerves at the back where the spine and the skull meet, and they just die from that. Now, if they're going underground, that's above ground, or in a bigger burrow where they have got the room to maneuver. If they're underground and it's kind of tooth to tooth, it's almost always a throat grab. And it's just they can't maneuver up above the way they like, and so they just get up in the throat. And you can oftentimes know how an animal was killed or where an animal was killed by the injuries. You're like, oh, they must have got into some big cavern because look, he bit the back of the head. It's got a throat bite, but he didn't kill that in the grass. He must have pulled it out of a hole in the grass, because if it was in the grass, he would have got the back of the head. So very, very consistently, they're hitting the back of the head unless they just can't, which is almost always some tight little hole, and then they hit the throat. There's occasional weird one-offs where those two rules don't apply, but that's the norm. Ducks and geese, it tends to be the back of the head, but I've seen them switch to the throat. I don't know why. I mean, their neck is like the length of the body of the mink if it's a small mink or a big goose. So they might just not know where to fight. They just get up the head. I did see one mink, which is a real powerful male, who rode on the back of the goose like it was a raft and just bit the base of the neck and kill it. But that's the first I've ever seen that. I've only seen that once. They almost always want to get up on the skull, close to the skull, and bite in that area. But that mink, he was in the water, and the goose was literally the reason he wasn't like drowning. Not drowning, but like when they go to make that bite, it usually shoves them under the water if it's on the head, right? So if you imagine them grabbing even a duck, they end up underwater, and they can only chew so long before they got to come up for a breath. That mink was just riding the goose like a raft and biting the base of the neck instead of up the base of the head. it just worked. He's like, hey, I don't have to like hold my breath. I could just sit up here and chew. And he was powerful enough. He got it done. And it died. So.
Jesus.
But most mink would really have a hard time killing them at the base of the neck, is my assumption. They got to get up by the head for a goose, you know.
That's awesome. This pretty intriguing, Joseph. I could imagine your day is like National Geographic every single day with some of the things that these mink and dogs do. It's incredible, and that you've trained them to do so. I bet you it's one of those things you look at them and you're like, I trained them to do so, and nobody believed that I could do it. That's the craziest part.
It's fun, and you know the funny part is it ended up being with the dogs, right? Because pit bulls, pit bulls, you can't trust them with other dogs. They're gonna get in a fight. Here I got these little feisty terriers, and they come up and steal my pit bull's rat, and she goes, just drops it. You can have it. And goes and gets another one. She doesn't fight him for it. She doesn't rip their head off. She's just like, man, you can have it, you jerk. I'll go catch another one. She is my most like polite ratting dog that I have, without a doubt. And I've had others like her. I'm not saying in my whole history of having, but like that I currently own. She is the polite little lady. If you come and snatch her rat, she's like, yeah, you can have it. I'll go get my own. She doesn't get grabbing onto it or get aggressive towards the other dog or none of that. She's like, yeah, you can have it. I'll go catch another one. If anything, she's too polite, because I've seen where that dog's got it. No, they don't got it. Get in there and help them. They're stupid. Like my buddy brings a dog, you know, and it's just not getting it done. Get in there and help it. But she's so polite. She's like, no, it's his rat. You can have it. I'll go catch another. And here she is, a fighting dog, right?
Yeah.
Oh, she's polite. Not just not fighting. She's polite.
Pit bulls have a really bad reputation, but like every single person that I personally know that has ever had a pit bull is exactly what you said. They're great dogs. They just get a bad reputation from bad owners that just don't take care of them and train them the right way.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they're very, very, very animal aggressive. And if you're not training them right, like if someone else owned my dog, she probably would kill other dogs. I'm just assuming that. I don't know, because she's never been in a fight. But she knew from a very, very early age that was not allowed. She's had other dogs attack her. She's been grabbed by another pit bull that I got from someone else. And very first coon they were on, they didn't even know each other. Very first coon they were on, that dog grabbed her leg. And she looks at me like, dude, get her off. And I'm like, get off her, get the coon. There you go. Good dog, get the coon. And she just, I mean, she's literally been grabbed by another dog. And she just looks at me like, dude, get him off. But here's the thing. What would she do if I wasn't there? I don't know.
Oh, she's just used to you.
I can't answer that question. Every time I knew it happened, I was there, obviously. So.
Right. Yeah. Because if you weren't there, she knows that she's going to be reprimanded for doing something wrong, just like anything else that you own. So they know not to do anything in front of you, right? Like,
well, she has a conscience, though. I don't have to be present, and she'll behave that way. I'm just saying, if that dog kept chewing, I mean, what are her options at that point?
Right.
I think she'll chew back eventually.
It's a fight-flight situation.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph, we really appreciate you jumping on, man. Why don't you drop where they can find some of your exclusive content? Because I know that some of it can't be put on most social media platforms. And I know you have a little website that people can go and watch and follow along with what you got going on.
Yeah, so I have what I call my exclusive club, and that's on a little platform that they just let me put whatever I want on there, right? There's no what's the word?
Shadow banding.
Yeah.
No.
You know, what's the word?
Censored?
Censoring. There's no censorship whatsoever. I can put what I want on there. And now, to be fair, I do censor myself. I'm not going to put something that I don't want the general public to see. So that's not saying my videos are totally uncensored. I will censor it because there are general public people seeing these. But I'm not censored by the platform itself. But yeah, it's Mighty Networks is the platform name, but you don't really need to know that. Just go to any of my YouTube videos and write down in the description. It says Mink Man's Exclusive Club. Click on that. Now, the videos on there are of a couple different types. You're going to get stuff I can't post on YouTube. Like it literally will get taken down before it's even done uploading. they've got some goofy algorithm. If you I accidentally once did it where I was trying to put it on my other platform and I was just tired and I wouldn't pay attention, and I uploaded on YouTube, and beep, it stopped. I'm like, dude, like it wasn't even done uploading. Like, how did you know it was on there? So that's some of the content on there, obviously. But I also have stuff that I just frankly don't want 10 million people seeing. Things that I'm doing personally, I could put on YouTube, but I don't really want a million people seeing this. I have a small, sure, some goofy PETA person might sneak in and be on my club, but it's just so much more unlikely that or some other hater in some way. It doesn't have to be PETA, right? So I'll put some kind of personal stuff that I don't normally want people to see on there. Little training techniques that I don't think the whole world should know. If you're in the hunting world, you would know. Like, you don't want the whole world knowing how you train a coon dog, things like that. So I'll put that kind of stuff on there. But then I also have the same exact videos on YouTube, but I just put them way early. So like right now, YouTube, according to YouTube, this litter of puppies I just had is 4 weeks old, but really they're 10 weeks old. And my clubs watched every step all along the way. And YouTube's like, wow, these puppies are growing up fast. It's like, yeah, because they're 2 months older than you think they are. so yeah, they get early content. They get exclusive content that's both exclusive on kind of the rough, maybe it's a little more bloody or gory than it should be, but also exclusive because it's a little more personal than I want. I feel a lot more comfortable showing something to, 200 people than I do 200,000 people, if that makes sense. So yeah, just any video and if it's not on that one video, you must be watching a really old YouTube video. Just go watch another one, and right under there, it's Mink Man's exclusive club. Yeah. So yeah, give it a follow. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, a lot of stuff that I can't put on YouTube, and sometimes even the exact same video, but I have to like edit out this one bloody part. This rat guts fly everywhere, or bites a dog's nose and the dog bleeds or something. I'm like, oh, not putting that on YouTube, but my club can see it. So
Joseph, we really appreciate you joining us, and it's super cool, and I'm so glad that I found you. We can't thank you enough for joining us and coming on and watching. But I do want to ask you one more question before we let you go. What drives you outdoors, Joseph?
Really, it's, for me, oddly enough, it's watching an animal develop. I find that if I'm not developing something, I'm not that motivated to go out. Like, I'll go out, but not day in and day out and consistently and all the time, especially when the weather's bad. It's like, I'll just go out another time. If it's just fun for me, I'll just go out another time. But if I'm developing a dog and I want it to be a better coon finding hunting dog, or a better mink finding, catching fish or catching muskrats or whatever it is, and I have that animal being developed, that's my big, I don't care that it's cold. I don't care that I'm tired. I don't care that it's late. I don't care that it's early. I got to develop that dog or that mink or that bird of prey when I was a falconer. And that's my big drive, is developing whatever animal I happen to be hunting with, get them more experience and more opportunities to learn. And yeah.
I think I wouldn't expect anything else from you, honestly, Joseph, and it's right on cue. Well, Joseph, we really appreciate you taking the ride with us, and everybody else, thanks for taking the ride. Make sure to go check out Joseph, and we thank y'all, and we'll see you.